Hey there, friends. Buckle up for an epic adventure through the wild, vibrant, and ever-evolving tale of the United States of America. Picture this as a cinematic journey, one that weaves together the dreams, struggles, and triumphs of a nation born from grit and ambition. This isn't just a history lesson, it's a living, breathing story of people who dared to chase freedom, fight for justice, and shape a land that's become a beacon of possibility. Let's dive in, starting not at the beginning, but in the heart of a moment that changed everything. Imagine a chilly December night in 1773, Boston Harbor glittering under the moonlight. A group of colonists, faces painted to blend into the shadows, sneak aboard British ships. They're not here to negotiate. They're angry, fed up with taxes they have no say in, and they dump crate after crate of tea into the icy water. This is the Boston Tea Party, a defiant spark that sets the stage for a revolution. But to understand why these colonists were so bold, we need to rewind way back to the roots of this land. Long before the colonists' rebellion, this vast continent was home to millions of Native Americans. For over 15,000 years, tribes like the Cherokee, Navajo, and Iroquois thrived, crafting intricate cultures, hunting across sprawling plains and cultivating crops like corn and squash. They lived in sync with the land, their stories etched into the mountains and rivers. But everything changed in 1492, when an Italian sailor named Christopher Columbus, bankrolled by Spain's King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella, stumbled onto a Caribbean shore. He thought he'd found a shortcut to Asia, calling the locals Indians in his confusion. Little did he know, his arrival would unleash a wave of European explorers, hungry for land, gold, and glory. Now, let's fast forward to the early 1600s. The English, eager to stake their claim, established Jamestown in Virginia in 1607. It's a rough start. Starvation, disease, and brutal winters test the settlers' resolve. Yet they endure, laying the foundation for more colonies to sprout along the Atlantic coast. By 1620, the Pilgrims, a group of religious rebels fleeing persecution, arrive on the Mayflower. They land in Massachusetts, half-starved and unprepared. But the Wampanoag tribe teaches them to survive. Sharing knowledge of farming and fishing, that first Thanksgiving, it's a fleeting moment of unity, a feast that masks the tensions brewing between newcomers and natives. By the 1700s, the colonies are buzzing with life. Picture three distinct regions: the New England colonies with their tight-knit fishing villages and rugged forests. The Middle colonies, a cultural mosaic of Dutch, German, and English settlers growing wheat in the breadbasket. And the Southern colonies, where sprawling plantations churn out tobacco and cotton. But here's the dark truth. Those plantations rely on enslaved Africans forcibly brought across the ocean in chains. Their labor fuels the South's wealth, but their suffering is a scar on the nation's soul, one that will haunt America for centuries. As the colonies grow, so does their frustration with Britain. King George III rules from across the sea, taxing everything from tea to paper, while giving colonists no voice. No taxation without representation becomes their rallying cry. The Boston Tea Party is just the beginning. By 1775, tensions explode into the American Revolution. Farmers and shopkeepers turn into soldiers, led by a Virginia planter named George Washington. In 1776, Thomas Jefferson, a brilliant but conflicted slaveholder, pens the Declaration of Independence, proclaiming that all men are created equal with rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Bold words for a fledgling nation, but words that don't yet apply to everyone. The war is brutal. The British have numbers and training, but the Americans have heart and help from France. In 1781, the tide turns at Yorktown, where Washington's forces, backed by French ships, trapped the British Army. By 1783, Britain surrenders, and the United States is born. The Constitution, drafted in 1787, becomes the nation's blueprint, and Washington steps up as its first president. Freedom is the dream, but it's a dream denied to enslaved people. Native Americans and women setting the stage for struggles to come. Let us zoom to 1803. President Thomas Jefferson doubles the country of size with the Louisiana Purchase, snagging a massive swath of land from France. Explorers Lewis and Clark, guided by a Shoshone woman named Sacagawea, venture west, mapping rivers and meeting tribes. This sparks the idea of manifest destiny, the belief that Americans are fated to claim the continent. Families pile into covered wagons, braving deserts and mountains to build new lives. But this westward push comes at a cost. Native tribes are forced onto reservations, their land stolen, their cultures eroded. Battles like Little Bighorn in 1876, led by leaders like Sitting Bull, show their fierce resistance, but the odds are stacked against them. Meanwhile, the South's economy booms, built on the backs of enslaved people. Cotton is king, but its crown is stained with blood. By the 1850s, the nation is splitting apart. The North, with its factories and small farms, wants to end slavery. The South, clinging to its plantation system, sees abolition as a threat to its way of life. Heroes like Harriet Tubman, who escaped slavery and leads others to freedom via the Underground Railroad, and Frederick Douglass, whose fiery speeches expose slavery's horrors, fan the flames of change. Harriet Beecher Stowe's novel Uncle Tom's Cabin shocks Northern readers, turning hearts against slavery. In 1861, the divide becomes a chasm. Southern states form the Confederacy, and the Civil War erupts. President Abraham Lincoln, a lanky lawyer with a fierce moral compass, vows to keep the Union whole. The war is a nightmare brothers fight. Brothers' fields turn to graveyards. In 1863, Lincoln issues the Emancipation Proclamation, freeing enslaved people in Confederate states. It's a bold move, but freedom isn't won until 1865, when the North triumphs, and the 13th Amendment bans slavery for good. Reconstruction begins, promising equality with laws like the 14th and 15th Amendments, granting citizenship and voting rights to African Americans. But the South resists, passing Jim Crow laws to keep black people oppressed, sowing seeds of a long fight for justice. The late 1800s bring a new era, the Industrial Revolution. Factories spring up, powered by immigrants pouring through Ellis Island. Inventors like Thomas Edison light up homes with electricity, while Alexander Graham Bell's telephone shrinks the world. Railroads stitch the nation together, but workers face grueling conditions. The 1911 Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire, where trapped women perish, forces new safety laws. Meanwhile, the West grows, fueled by the Homestead Act, but Native Americans are pushed further to the margins. By 1898, America flexes its muscles in the Spanish-American War, gaining Puerto Rico and the Philippines. World War I in 1917 and World War II in 1941 cement its global power. From D-Day to the atomic bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, America emerges as a superpower. The Cold War pits it against the Soviet Union in a tense standoff. Think the space race, where Apollo 11 lands on the moon in 1969, or the nail-biting Cuban Missile Crisis. At home, the civil rights movement takes center stage. Rosa Parks' defiance in 1955, Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech in 1963, and laws like the Civil Rights Act of 1964 mark hard-won progress, though equality remains a work in progress. The 1920s roar with jazz and women's suffrage, but the 1929 stock market crash ushers in the Great Depression. Franklin D. Roosevelt's New Deal pulls the nation back from the brink, building roads and creating social security. The 21st century sees America as a cultural juggernaut. Hollywood, Beyoncé, and fast food conquer the globe. Its diversity, from Diwali festivals to taco trucks, is its heartbeat. Yet challenges persist. Racism, income inequality, and climate change demand solutions. Young innovators, from AI pioneers to climate activists, are shaping a future where America's resilience and dreams shine. This is America's story, a saga of grit, hope, and reinvention. From native tribes to modern trailblazers, it's a nation built by people who dared to dream big, even when the odds were steep. The journey's not over. What's next? That's up to all of us.